and there was a subtle reminder for many automobile manufacturers about just maybe putting the pollen filters in a place where you can actually get at them, and yeah, lots more. That's what we're talking about here.
The never-ending hatred of pollen filters. The battle, the constant battle.
Well, you know, and this is that thing, because you sent me a video again of you removing part of the dash of a car, digging in to get this pollen filter. You destroy the pollen filter in the process, but you got to put another one back in, and it's all near impossible. So then I just thought, well, you know, I know why we need them. Let's go look at some scientific data. And you definitely want a pollen filter in your car.
The difference is untold, right?
Yeah.
It's such a massive, massive difference in the health of the air, the quality, of the air.
And there's no denying it. And so I just can't figure out, automobile manufacturers have figured out where to put batteries. They figured out where sometimes, yeah, some under the seat where you've got to remove bolts, and not necessarily the best thing. But this seems like a no-brainer. You know, you have a hatch in the, you know, the engine compartment somewhere that it's easy to just sort of flick up, put it in, take it out. Like, this is not rocket science.
Yeah, I mean, the video I sent you this time was the Audi. It was off my Audi, and
yeah, and that's not a run-of-the-mill junkyard car.
It only takes sort of 10 minutes to do. You still have to take the glove box out, but because they're all held in with bolts, it's easy to do, and when you know what you're doing. But the problem is, not everybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then that's the reason that I came to that, and one of the bolts isn't the right bolt because someone's lost a bolt or cross-threaded it.
Yeah.
The filter was absolutely disgraceful.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was
wet and everything. You know, and that kind of made the job worth it, because it was like, oh, good, get some benefit out of this.
Yeah.
But I was going to change them anyway. The filters came from Borg & Beck. And it was a two-piece, so that filter, because of where it is and there's no space to get a big one-piece filter in, you have to put two thin ones in. So you put one in through the hole, push it up, and then while you're holding it up, try and get the other one quickly in, and then it doesn't really work. But it goes in, and as long as you get the airflow.
No, I like you've got it in there, and then really quickly as you're doing the contortion.
You got to be quicker than gravity.
Yeah, you got
whilst you lay on your back.
And you've got, you know, DJ sitting behind you with a a big
DJ
lighter.
At this point has got the engine running and the heater on.
And the heater on.
And the footwell.
And he's revving it up.
Doing the pollen filter challenge. So it was getting nice and tense in there. But yeah.
Here's my question. How many people actually, I mean, I know you guys do it. You guys clean these filters. You don't clean them, you replace them. Yeah. But how many people are getting these pollen filters replaced on a regular basis?
The problem with them is that, look, we're mechanics, there's no hiding that fact. And we often get, well, not often, always, generally get tarred with the same brush of, well, if you're in the motor trade, you're a crook.
Yeah.
Estate agents have the same.
Yeah.
Bankers, since 2008, you know, these kinds of people, we just, no matter what your profession is, there's certain professions that if there's a bad one amongst you that's famously bad or infamously, whichever way you look at it, the rest of your trade is painted the same way. And, you know, you're an educator. Well, you know, people say, oh, 400 days a year holiday. What, you know,
what do we know?
Those who can't do teach and all that nonsense that people say, right? So it's the same, and it's absolute nonsense, but it's a stereotype and it sticks. So when it comes to selling somebody a pollen filter, it just looks like upsell.
Yeah.
No different to how we talk about the fuel system cleaners at the petrol pump, which is upsell.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes there's some justification for thinking that someone trying to sell you a pollen filter is upsell, because the person selling it to you doesn't know why they're selling it to you.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about knowing, you know, the finer points of science and, you know, getting Dr. Jenner in here and talking to us about Legionnaire's disease and all sorts of stuff you can get from manky water and dirty air. But the fact of the matter is that there's a huge health benefit. There's also a massive benefit to the actual vehicle. So the pollen filter will filter dust, particles, pollen, hence the name, out of the air and protect you from getting it into the cabin. It also deals with some fumes and smells as well. The one that I put in was a charcoal one, so it had charcoal in the fins of it, which deal with smells. But they also stop that dust and contaminants getting to the heater core and the evaporator core.
Ah, I never thought about that.
So these things then, the evaporator especially gets damp because it's moist and condensation builds up on it. So the dust sticks to that and sticks to it and sticks to it and it doesn't disappear. So then what happens is the air can't blow through, so the air conditioning isn't as effective because the air isn't able to blow through the cold veins of the evaporator. But also some of these things that get thrown in through there, they're traveling at some serious speed and they can damage, and they do damage. And when they eventually break away, they take some of the evaporator with it, and then you get evaporators leaking. So the filter does a good job of protecting that component as well. So there's a lot to be said for keeping your pollen filters changed.
Yeah, I just think it's something that, depending on the generation we're from, or the fact that it's out of sight, out of mind, sometimes we just don't think about them.
Just let's be blunt about it. The fact is, people are too clean these days. So everybody's kids are all allergic to everything.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying we should all run around having worms and stuff, but the fact of the matter is, we're far too clean these days, and then people are. There are more allergies than there would have been 100 years ago, and there's a genuine need for a pollen filter. Like, you wouldn't necessarily have needed it. You probably weren't really going fast enough 100 years ago in any kind of automobile to really get up to any speed that the air was coming in, and there was certainly no blower motors. So AC now, because of how it works, because every car has it, every car, base model, pretty much always now, you need to have a pollen filter, you need to have an AC filter. And they are relatively inexpensive. We never ever clean them out.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's people who are doing that. It's just like you do with the filter and the air filter. Blow it out. I'm sure some people just take it out.
The problem with cleaning them is you can't get the mold out of them.
Right.
And you can't always see the mold because the charcoal in them sometimes you don't see it. If you take one out and it's damp, like mine was,
they're always going to be damp.
Pretty much, yeah. So we never clean them because the work in removing some of them, it isn't worth it. Just put a new one in, and the majority of the makeup of them is paper. Some of them have a bit of plastic around the edge, but they can be relatively easily disposed of without harming the environment too badly. So we always replace them, and like I say, the Borg & Beck ones, we get a direct replacement. They're the same as the original equipment. So
nice. You sent me a wonderful little video of getting the plastic bumper pieces back to black using a blowtorch. I thought, now that's pretty cool. You were using peanut oil at one point.
Yeah. So we had a shortage of peanut oil. So we moved on to the mustard oil, which we use mustard oil for when we're drilling or cutting.
Okay.
And it works really well, deals with it.